Welcome to the finale of our series. As you can see, the atmosphere is completely different from the previous episodes so far, and there's a reason for that. You know, guys, I've prepared for you 9 pages of super interesting information, but I'm really wondering whether to give it to you the way you're used to so far or just speak from the heart. Because the information really is a lot, but when it's organized this way, of course, there's another side to it, which personally I didn't like, and I wanted to change something in the way we wrap up this meeting in this format. And that's why the place where you see me now is, so to speak, another part of our office where everyone comes in and we welcome them, our so-called lobby, where we keep all our things. I consciously want you to see things as they really are, to see me in a very normal, natural environment where there's absolutely nothing staged. I told Valia this before I started. I can't even remember the last time I filmed in natural light because, as you know, in cinema and television, all kinds of lighting equipment are used. But in the end, natural light always has a certain charm that reminds us of who we are. Fasten your seatbelts, because parallel realities are my favorite topic. That was the gateway to time that got me hooked on everything related to the mysteries of our universe and the whole cosmos that is within us. Until then, I knew there was secret knowledge, that there was something ancient, something hidden from us, something that lies within us, the divine particle, as it's more commonly known, but I knew that. The idea of parallel worlds is extremely exciting, and how we can even imagine that I am here right now talking to you, and at the same time, somewhere else in another space, there are other versions of Choco, of Stoyan, who are also talking, or at this moment going to a provider's office, or taking a shower, or watching a movie, and all of this exists simultaneously. At first, working with this concept was hard for me because the physical brain, no matter how much we train it, no matter how intelligent we are, no matter how many books you read, you can't train it to accept that amount of information and such a concept with details because it simply isn't made to handle it. However, the energy within you, well, it doesn't have the limits of the physical mind, and therefore it knows these patterns very well and often whispers to us in the form of notifications, sending us déjà vu at the most unexpected moments. Identical numbers, if you've been experiencing this more often lately, for some people it's about 6 to 10 times a day, sometimes even more. Suddenly, random friends from the past start calling us and reaching out to reconnect, while new ones with whom we've spent a lot of time in recent years fall apart for no reason, for some reason that at first glance isn't the end of the world, as we say. We continually receive signals from the energy world. Why? Well, because imagine how complex and at the same time how simply functioning our organism is. However, if we add everything we know from biology, from physics, from medicine, even from neuroscience, and even leave it aside, let's leave it aside and think about the point of view. Imagine the following you create for yourself. Automatic rules. Ways and mechanisms by which your heart keeps beating completely automatically. Your kidneys are in exactly the right place, functioning and sending cells back and forth to other organs, handling all these complex tasks that happen while we sleep and while we're awake, all completely unconsciously. To have rules and laws for adaptation in general on planet Earth. That's why, for example, when we see a lot of clouds and gray skies, we know it's going to rain. And when it rains automatically, the grass and trees grow faster, and accordingly our bodies cool down, or we start to feel stuffy if it gets too humid. And for example, we're in one of the warmer destinations to have snow, to have summer, for the leaves to fall, and all of this to seem at first glance like orchestrated events that are super automated. Like one big program, so that what? We can sit and maintain them and become providers and support team for the whole system around us, or to free ourselves from that and put it somewhere in our consciousness, so that what remains is the pure experience. Because if we don't have pure experience, or even the very idea of the game of life, and life itself, it then becomes very uninteresting. And don't you agree that we are here, and it's as if we've separated all these mechanisms that work flawlessly so that we can focus solely and only on a very simple task: to be in every single frame from the real of the present, presente, and the most natural version of yourself. Nothing else. It sounds simple and easy to say, and I agree, but consider it carefully. Everything around us is actually arranged, and if we let go of control and let things be, they arrange themselves in the best way for us, for everyone else, and for everything that exists as a whole. So what is left for us then? The pleasure and fun of the fact that in this particular moment you are unique, irreplaceable. There will never be exactly a version like you as you exist right now, and through this individual and unique version of yourself, you experience life through this film strip. Accordingly, and we choose whether to enjoy going down this path with pleasure, happiness, and joy with ease, or with sadness, with anxiety, with guilt, and hardships. It's like we have complete freedom to choose, not just like we really do have complete freedom to choose how we experience this journey of the experience. And even though I've prepared an exceptional 9 pages, a previous version of myself would have stood here honestly, just like this, out of spontaneity, and would have told you 5 episodes. You watched something interesting, organized and scripted, making you feel comfortable with its editing, sound, visuals and shots, but since there isn't special particular results and adequate comments, you won't get the most interesting things about parallel realities, the longest meditation, which is in this episode, and generally more knowledge on these topics. From my current point of view, this is unacceptable. And not only will I give you all the materials we've produced, but I'll also make sure that right now I give my very best to provide them to you. And it's not about striving for some kind of perfection, because I recently reminded myself that to give your best doesn't really require anything extraordinary. That just means to escape yourself while fully being yourself. How others will understand you, that doesn't matter at all, right? As long as it's you, as long as you are yourself while saying it. If you were truly yourself, your most natural version, your most authentic version while doing all this, then you can't have any restraints, you won't have any worries, because you've said everything you could at that moment because you were yourself. And when you were yourself, then everything else falls away. And then you don't worry about what others will say about you. Then you don't worry about the way you'll express what you have to say to the world. Because you see, I'm on this journey on YouTube for 10 years. And if you think about it, the main idea of the whole platform is YouTube. This is your own version and perspective about life and everything that happens. And the more authentic you are, the more it will reflect in your world, because you are following, there it is, somewhere, the 4th law of existence. Whatever you emit, that's what you'll get back in response. And it doesn't matter where we started from. Myths and mysticism about meditation, through the illusion of time and the fact that everything happens in the present, to Channeling, of course, an exceptional topic that, to my delight, is increasingly starting to enter into our daily lives, for those who are open to all of this, of course. For the others, it won't even appear to them as a possibility because they have a different focus. And that's completely okay with me and with all of that. And today we get to parallel realities, a topic that just 10 years ago really sounded like a distant future. A term that sounds strange, but if we think deeply, what does parallel realities mean? If we already know, thanks to quantum physics, that a wave is a particle only when it is observed, that means when there is no focused attention on it, it remains only as a probability of a vacuum fluctuation, as you know very well, which in English is called probability. In other words, there is a chance for it to exist if it is chosen, but in practice it doesn't exist. Because it's not the focus, okay? If we imagine all these probabilities, which in the universe are infinitely many, and imagine that these are separate frames, like entire lifelines and paths, then what do we get? We already know very well that reality is not fixed. There's not a single reality everyone must follow. We change it through our choices every moment, and science has already proven and known this for a long time. We remain in superposition until we choose with countless options available. The moment we choose, suddenly for us, for those who have chosen, the world, the surrounding world, collapses into a single one that is solid, which is clear, which is evident, which is material, made of matter, and the only one. And actually, we nourish the same choices. By nourishing the same choices, understand that we repeat the same beliefs and way of thinking about our life for most of our journey. And therefore, this is where time comes in. We stretch both space and time so that when we look back, it proves to us and gives us the exact examples in the form of memories for what we decided to do today, and we get thoughts, probabilities, and ideas about what we intend to do in the future. Okay, but that's because we maintain these choices. For example, I've chosen to work for a salary. I don't want to push myself any further. I'm fine with that. But at the same time, I complain. I constantly criticize others. This guy bought such a car. That one moved to some property. This one's shoes cost so much. That one goes on such vacations. Well, go ahead. Go ahead, because he doesn't have an argument with you. He just has different beliefs. He has his beliefs in his neurons, in his brain, and in his way of thinking that he doesn't want to comply with someone giving him money once a month. He wants to take risks, not to know exactly how much he'll earn every month, but to have the freedom to choose and decide at any moment how much money to make and so on. Well, that's a different point of view. Then, with this way of thinking, in this case the entrepreneurial one, we're using it as an example because money is always very easy for people to understand. Then suddenly this person starts to see different probabilities and opportunities for the future. But if they're on a salary, somewhere out there in one of the big supermarkets, those possibilities still exist as very distant parallel probabilities. But until a leap, an action, a choice, an act towards them is made, they simply remain in the form of dreams. And the one who is the entrepreneur seems to be already one step almost into them. He's almost entered that reality. It could even be said that if the person himself speaks and behaves in the way he imagined and wished to be, he may not even realize when he has entered that reality. He starts attracting more opportunities around himself. People who help him realize his ideas and projects related to his career, even with his personal projects, to build a home for his family or to get involved in a really good cause and so on. And suddenly a whole whirlwind of energy starts spinning, which matches the focus I have chosen to be this person. This whirlwind of energy wouldn't have started spinning if that particular person hadn't pushed himself, hadn't wanted to get something more out of himself, hadn't wanted to move to another job, to do something better for his family, or to help a friend. Then, when he decides, the moment he truly makes that choice within himself, that's when he moves into another parallel reality and he already becomes that version. And here Bashar says, you change the earth. See how deep this is. You do not change the earth you are on. You move. Hello?
Hello, good afternoon. Am I speaking with someone from the INRA team?
Yes, you're speaking with Choco.
Oh, hello, it's very nice to meet you.
Oh, same here.
Sorry to bother you.
It's all right. Tell me how I can help.
I'm not good with these networks, you know.
All right.
I want to become a member, you know, to support you. However, I can't find where I need to pay. There is, you know, on the page.
Or questions, whichever is easiest for you.
All right, thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. Have a nice day.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for this. You can see how most of our days go by. We talk to you, we try to really to be who we are and not have any discrepancy. Because it's very easy to get carried away, guys, in the material world we're in, and really it's good to not to say it like that. Let's not to keep track of yourself, because people take that in a very strange way, but to really be ready to create ways for yourself to return to what you have declared to yourself and to the world that you will do and that you are. And if you're not that thing, it's not a problem. That means it's not your natural self and you don't want to deal with it, but be free and honest to say it, or at least create the conditions for yourself to have said that at any moment, wherever you are, whatever you have to do, let it be free, and for people to expect you to be honest and straightforward. When you say it, nothing is surprising. Some will always exist, but let's reduce them. Now, where were we with parallel realities? What does Bashar say about parallel realities? You don't change the earth you're on. You move super fast. There's no way your brain can catch it. Super fast to an earth that already matches the frequency you're vibrating at. Do you understand? You can change your setting instantly, but how long will it last? But remember this thing. As long as you maintain a certain setting, for example, of love, of calmness, of patience, of acceptance, you are no longer in the same reality as the person you were with before. With the person you were before. These are different realities. By different realities, you might ask why we keep seeing the same things around us. Because all these things have a common element. You yourselves, as essence, as energy, you have chosen to understand it this way, to stay as long as possible, thanks to gravity in this matter, because you have given yourselves the task to experience yourselves in this way. Yourself as the whole potential, which complements itself through this particular body, person, limitation, soul if you wish, essence, element. And in this way, the source itself develops infinitely, and it is like inhaling and exhaling. And this is something that is so immense and infinite, and this is a constant dance of the source with itself, and we accordingly, as an important part of all this, constantly complements the entire cosmic game, because we've talked about it many times, but it's good to mention it. The source has and contains all the information about everything, but there is one thing it doesn't know. Even with all the information and energy, there is one thing it doesn't know. What is that thing? It doesn't know what it's like not to know. If you want, we can change the word in the name to the more familiar one with I have no problem with the universe, God, or the absolute, even from a religious viewpoint. And even God knows, and God knows everything, okay? But what doesn't he know? He doesn't know what it means not to know. Exactly for this reason, a paradox arises within him, and he himself, if we imagine him as something separate, even though he is everywhere around us, begins to split into two halves, into two halves, into two halves, into two halves, and so on until it reaches us. This is from a linear perspective, since we know everything happens now, without confusion from these concepts. This thing is happening right now. You are practically, at this moment, at that age. There is a very interesting movie that, in my opinion, will complete your view of parallel realities. Because here, someone needs to experience this for it to click and for them to understand. No matter how much we talk about it, it won't be as useful as if you experience it yourself. The movie is called Parvichen Code, and there you can see how a person's consciousness is transferred, not from zero like a baby as we imagine it when you die, that you're sent back to Earth as a baby, but directly as a 50-year-old person who suddenly, his life continues, and he remembers family, where he was born, what happened, what's ahead, what awaits him, who he is at the moment. It's not necessary for it to let you go, as we think, kids, babies, teenagers, students, and so on. Watch the movie. There's a very interesting thought experiment in science. It's known as Schrödinger's cat. What happens? In short, a scientist puts a cat in a sealed box with a device that has a 50-50 chance of releasing poison. Until someone opens the box, quantum physics tells us that the cat is neither alive nor dead. It exists in a superposition of both states. The moment the observer... Let's go back again. The one who chooses, but keep in mind, chooses their entire reality. That includes absolutely everything that is around us. In us, around us, will be in us, will be among us, and has been around us. So, the moment the observer looks inside the box, the cat, it chooses to be one or the other, either alive or dead. But is it really like that? Hugh Everett, a well-known physicist in '57, he had such a bold idea that even today it makes scientists feel uncomfortable. Well, what if the cat doesn't choose at all? Well, what if instead the universe itself splits? This interpretation of Everett's many worlds in 1957 says that the universe splits into a version where the cat continues to live and a version where it dies. One where you are watching this episode, one where you don't exist at this time at all, one where you are falling in love for the first time at this very moment, and so on. Right now, there are infinitely many versions of you. Each one of them is living a different version of your life. Some are very similar, as we said, with differences that are unnoticeable. Others, however, are unrecognizable. Now, Bashar, we've talked about this many times. It's worth briefly mentioning the analogy about parallel realities. The television analogy. It's behind me, and here's the remote. Channel 5 is playing right now. The moment I press up, the channel changes to 4. Where does Channel 5 go? Does it disappear? Yes. For me, in this room on this television channel, 5 is barely broadcast. But if I go back, here it is forward and backward, suddenly Channel 5 starts working. How does that happen? Well, in the same way. Like the millions of television channels or videos, shows, podcasts, streams right now that are being broadcast, they all exist simultaneously in space. And our choice, focus, act. Accordingly, it manifests what we see on the screen, and if we apply it to our lives, it also manifests what we see as reality. Think about it. If you don't think about something, it just disappears for you guys. The simplest example. Who's thinking about combines now? Who? At the moment I say it, though, I haven't even finished the question yet, since the word combine. It exists as energy, as potential, as an archetype in our collective consciousness. You immediately... The thought flies so fast, it immediately creates such a light. A mental image acts like a combine harvester, making you think, aha, yes, I know this, I can picture it. If I hadn't said it by the end of the episode, you probably wouldn't have had a thought about a combine harvester. Maybe for ice cream, but not for a combine harvester. That's the point. Now, another movie that we won't be discussing here, which is a key part of, by the way, of the seminar's Kogitalnost. And this is really a finale that's worth it for anyone who wants to visit it at least once and experience the whole event, but there some excerpts from the movie Mr. Nobody are being discussed. This is a very strange movie. A very, very, very strange movie, especially if you're encountering such concepts for the first time. Because there we have the story of the main character, Nemo, who is faced with a life-changing decision at the beginning, to stay with his father or to go with his mother. But instead of presenting a single outcome, the film explores every possibility. What happens if Nemo goes with his father? What if he goes with his mother? In one reality, he goes with his mother, falls in love with a girl named Anna, and experiences different versions of their relationship. One, where he is honest and says things as he sees and thinks them. Another, where he lies to her. Then they get married. Accordingly, in one of them, they don't have a child and both die in a car accident. Another in which their life develops happily, and so on. In another, he stays with his father and leads a completely different life. Another girl appears. He's nervous. In one version, he dies by motorcycle. In the other, he tells his father, I don't care tonight, I can't search anymore. I'm fed up. I'll marry the first girl who dances with me tonight. And as a result, several other things happen there. In another reality, he avoids making any choice at all. He leaves all possibilities open, thinking he can hack the whole system and just say, no, no, no. From what life offers me, I won't choose this or that or that. Mind your own business, and at some point, when you have no choice, everything still remains equally possible. Until, at some point, life forces you to make yet another choice. One of the most memorable lines in the movie says, it doesn't matter whether you're choosing between a cupcake or a parent. Until you've made your choice, everything remains possible. That's the nature of free will. And accordingly, the demonstration of how the smallest choices, from our point of view, create an extremely different future. And even more than that. But how? At a certain moment, we don't realize it, but the choice we make to pick up this glass, to record, for example, this video, I'll use myself as an example, in this way creates an entirely different probability for what will happen even an hour later. What will we discuss in 20 years? Every single line you say belongs to your partner, to your parents, the way you respond, even in the beginning, your brain tries to make you believe that these are the same people against you. They are completely different, but from their point of view, who have collapsed this choice and have held on to it so much for them, as we said in the beginning. Subscribe. Reality and life seem objective. Do you understand? From the point of view of the observer who has already immersed himself in the reality he has chosen and consciously does not consider other options and does not, he allows the information to pass through him. For someone inside the game, it's completely real. But that's why it's said that this needs to happen simultaneously, because if you completely step out of it, then you lose the experience. Then you lose the meaning of the game, right, of being a player and even playing here at all. But don't forget the other point of view. Each choice changes everything. It shifts you to a nearby parallel reality. It could be, for example, if one reality vibrates at 4053 Hertz, I'm just making this up. The other one could be at 4053, 683, but that's different, you see. It can't stay the same since at the very least you change the way you react to a given situation. And from here comes a very interesting conclusion. Identify it in your own life. Start monitoring yourself. Yes, exactly. You monitor yourselves where and which buttons, when they are pressed in you, in your psyche, in certain situations, you, despite the years, despite all the very different things that have happened to you continue to react to these pressed buttons in the same way. That's where your very strong beliefs are rooted. That certain things are a certain way and unchangeable. There's no way they could be different. You see, it just has to be that way. Examine them. Look for those beliefs and the core of those beliefs, because you'll see that the moment you get to the real core of why you believe something is the way it is, usually the belief no longer affects you, and you tell yourself, well, is this what I imagined? Yes, but said like that, for someone to tell you, no, you have to explore things yourself and come to the conclusion. At the right moment for you. No one can tell you, do it, do it, do it, do it, to push you, for you to deny, to resist. It doesn't work. This way you close yourself off even more, you start creating the illusion that you're even losing your potential, and you temporarily move into a parallel reality where you exist and you are like that. I don't care. Whatever happens, happens. It wouldn't have worked out anyway. Nothing ever works out for me. End of discussion. Of course, it's very important to include this version as well, which a lot of people, the clever ones, and some people in the comments, I'm sure, are thinking about. Choco, if what we're considering as an idea right now is true, if all possibilities exist simultaneously, then nothing matters. It doesn't matter then. What difference does my choice make? Now here is another very interesting movie. Since I'm speaking from a director's point of view and movies are a big passion of mine, forgive me for giving you examples with movies, but some people give examples with stories of other people, with books, I don't know, with something else. I give examples with movies because that way you can see it for yourself in the film. Now, the movie is called Everything Everywhere All at Once. You must watch it. It's about a woman, Evelyn Kwan, who is completely ordinary. She's overwhelmed by taxes, her laundromat is failing, and her marriage is falling apart. Her life seems completely ordinary until she discovers that there are countless versions of herself scattered across endless realities. In some, she's a famous movie star, in others a boss, in others a martial arts master, even a creature with hot dog fingers. Through a process in the film, as they call it, verse. Oh, my microphone is so loud. Why aren't you speaking? No one's here, but it doesn't matter. Through a process called verse jumping, which translates as jumping between versions. Evelyn learns that she can access the abilities of her alternate self. The idea mirrors quantum mechanics, where particles remain in several states until observed. But there's a problem. Jobo Topaki, the antagonist and another version of her daughter, has already unlocked the knowledge of the multiverse. She exists in all realities simultaneously and has achieved The conclusion: if everything is possible, nothing matters. Exactly what we're talking about. Subscribe. She creates something like a whole, capable of swallowing all realities, and according to her, no result matters if all results are possible. Overwhelmed by the chaos of all those possibilities, she starts to question her own existence. If there are infinitely many versions of her, what makes her special? The great Friedrich Nietzsche warns about the death of meaning, as he puts it, where without purpose people either fall into despair or surrender to absurdity. And this is yet another crossroads within us. Nietzsche claims that meaning is not something that has to be found. It is something that has to be created. Existence should be embraced and accepted even if it seems absurd, rather than falling into despair. In Buddhism, reality is an illusion or maya, a constantly changing experience shaped by our perception. I've written them down for you here. Buddhist teachings describe reincarnation as moving between realities, with each life as an alternate version of the last. The Bardo state in the Tibetan Book of the Dead is a transition between lives, where souls experience alternative possibilities before choosing the next incarnation. Enlightenment is realizing all realities are interconnected, similar to the multiverse in quantum mechanics. Hinduism has a similar view. The universe moves through cycles of creation and destruction, or kalpas, like Nietzsche's idea of eternal recurrence. Avatars of gods like Krishna and Vishnu represent the same being existing in different realities. Karma functions as a law, with every action creating alternative possibilities and determining the path of future reincarnations. Overall, the same idea at its core, at its foundation, is present in absolutely all teachings throughout the ages. Well, okay, what happens if we are already in the 21st century, with artificial intelligence entering into everything we see in so-called science fiction movies? When I was little, and that seemed, for example, like a movie, I, Robot, when I watched it, it seemed to me that this would happen in 300 years. 5 months ago, Elon Musk did a presentation with his army, literally an army of robots that walk, talk, dance, connect, join together, and synchronize. They're almost identical to the ones from iRobot. When was that movie released? I can't remember, but right now it's the year 2025. iRobot came out in 2004. The so-called science fiction stories are starting to come true. Stay alert for what's coming, especially in around the year 2027. Subscribe. We combine all of this, and what happens? The reality, of course, is not the only one. Many versions exist, as mentioned. What connects objective reality and the idea that everything exists simultaneously, or that there are potential probabilities for our other versions? Meditation. What have we been talking about over the past 5 weeks? Meditation, because meditation allows us to get out of our heads, as you know very well, and to receive information and access even to these different parallel worlds. For centuries, mystics, monks, and philosophers have claimed that the mind is not bound by physical reality. In Buddhism, as we said, it is Maya. Dr. Joe Dispenza, who we covered in episode 1, stands boldly and says that meditation completely changes brainwaves and neurons, allowing access to broader dimensions of consciousness. In the different languages of science, psychology, and physics, you will encounter it under different terms, but the foundation is absolutely the same. We are seeking evidence of parallel realities. How can we meet another parallel reality of ourselves, a parallel version? Practically, you can't, because your focus is connected and that's only you. However, in meditation, in dreams, in regression, in progression, you can definitely see yourself as a totally different version, doing something completely different. There is a different job, different friends. You might see the same version that looks the same, or you might embody something else, something completely different, and there are countless, probably by now, cases of people who share their experiences in regression. There are people known as regressive therapists, and what was the term? I like that. My thoughts flow freely, and the conversation is super direct. Write me a review if, by the way, you like this kind of communication. I really like it because it's like therapy and I can talk completely freely, just helping myself with a few bullet points I've written down. It's called futuro-retrospective. That's right, it's called methodology. There is an incredible amount of evidence and stories of people who have seen almost everything and they've come back and told about it and so on. Anyone interested can look into it themselves. Deja vu, that's how it began. It's one of the most vivid examples. Everyone has experienced it, and all say there's no explanation. Super weird. Oh, le déjà vu. There it is. That's one hell of a long déjà vu. Oh, it's still going, right? What happens during déjà vu? We discussed this on a previous show. At first glance, it feels like something very strangely familiar. Meeting someone for the first time it feels like I've seen this person before. I've met this person before. Our mind insists. Notice that this event has happened before, even when logic says otherwise. The term déjà vu comes from French and means already seen. Let's think about it. If it means already seen, let's broaden our perspective and step beyond the material world, since at its core it is 99% empty space. Where is it possible that we've already seen this, but we don't remember? Under what conditions? Well, if everything exists simultaneously, that gives a very clear answer. You see, we are currently on Earth. We are moving at a certain time. The space around us is a certain one, which we are constantly stretching or contracting accordingly. But it is limited. When we leave the body, that is, the energy leaves us, the soul leaves the body, which makes it easier, and then time starts to flow in a completely different way. At the source, when we are in the energy informational potential, this can be felt during meditation, then time stretches towards infinity. Then things inside happen in an instant. From that point of view, imagine all these probabilities which are infinite, they have no end. Suddenly they start happening in an instant. When do they happen? Now. But for us who are here in the body and walking a long path, and I have grown up and I'm getting older, it seems that I started from somewhere and I'm going somewhere. This is the greatest deception. I am not going anywhere and I am not coming back from anywhere. We move so quickly that there's no way we can grasp this with our minds. Do you understand? And just think about how many times you do it. Actually, the biggest habit that humanity has is sleep. Sleep. Because if you don't sleep and don't go to bed, you will die. Within 5-8 days, 10 at best. So how many of you remember exactly how they got angry? In your dream from last night? Do you remember the way and the path that led you to the moment when you say out of office? My body is sleeping now, I'm dreaming. How many of you remember the entrance, how a certain dream started? Who said that what is around you is real? Think about this very deeply. I know how confusing it really sounds. Mind-blowing for people who use English terms, but think about it. One day, Kung Fuzi walked through the forest with his students, thoughtful and silent. They had never seen him like this. They wondered and finally asked, "What's wrong, teacher?" "Last night I dreamed I was a butterfly," Kung Fuzi replied. The students laughed. "Well, what's so strange about that?" And Kung Fuzi continued. "And now I walk and wonder, maybe right now the butterfly is sleeping and dreaming that it is Kung Fuzi." That's the idea. Not seeing something doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It just means that we haven't yet learned how to perceive it. But that's fundamentally different from the thesis. It's not there. It's not there for you. Someone who moves through linear space-time, scientifically speaking, is limited to a human form. There are certain perceptions of frequencies for the ears, for the eyes, of smell, of touch, and of sensation. It's not there for you. If you look at things from a different angle, other possibilities will start to appear. This is where all the world's phenomena come in. We have enough of them here in Bulgaria, no need to list them. This includes all the so-called poltergeists, ghosts, energy entities, auras. Wherever you turn, everyone has some experience. Here's the idea. How do these parallel realities interact with each other? Well, exactly like that. They're intertwined like spaghetti in a big pan. And imagine these spaghetti noodles in the pan. Can you tell exactly where a single spaghetti starts? Just one. Or is it only when you pick it up to check if it's cooked and ready to eat that it somehow separates from the whole pan and becomes just one for us? Wait, where did you get that spaghetti? Was it alone? This pan. Listen to the reference and we're done. It's very interesting. This pan with spaghetti, I saw that in the movie The Flash. They made a unique reference and there's that explanation there. How can Svetkavitsata meet an old Batman who's already 70 or 80 years old when in his world there's no Batman, or Batman is rather someone else, played by Ben Affleck? Likewise, he explains it to him using spaghetti. Where they intersect, those are the so-called intersection points between different realities, but in practice, the spaghetti are separate, both in taste and in size. They're very close to each other, and together it becomes one big deliciousness. But if we focus on just one spaghetti by itself, it's different from the others. But it exists together with the others, and there was a really good joke there. So what does the sauce refer to then? That's already for pleasure, for taste, and for enjoyment, right? Boom, the whole sauce over the spaghetti. Parallel realities are the same way. The easiest way to feel them is through meditation. And that's the separate components of meditation, according to me, according to us, with Valya, what we've reached, and what I wanted to show you in these episodes up to this point. We began with the idea that all is one and one is all, provided we don't separate. No matter what we call it, God from us, the Creator from us, the Source from us. Then we start to see things as unity. The one is us, and we are the one. The part contains the whole, and the whole is contained in the part. As above, so below. As below, so above. There are no separate systems in the universe. It's very convenient to say, the one who created us up there. It's very convenient to say, that thing up there. But you're inside the whole thing. Do you get it? It's not accidental. Is the whole thing... It doesn't care how we define it, what title we give it, so that our beliefs can accept it more easily and work with it. It is the whole, it is what it is, Tao. In China, if we start thinking about Tao, Tao is no longer Tao. If we try to define it as Tao, it is no longer Tao. Well, it's the same with God, with the Source, with everything, because that is all that is. Everything that is. And in this way, think about it. Well, where are you in this everything that is? Will all that exists stay the same if you are not there? The end. Enough. They will answer these questions. So, during meditation, you could say that you feel this much more fully and a deeper connection with everything. And just connect with what you are, nothing complicated. Nothing scary, nothing unexplainable, nothing crazy. On the contrary, yes, it's crazy, because this is the ecstasy of the universe itself. This is the excitement. It is constantly breathing in and out, expanding and dancing with itself. If this can be considered madness, then it's worth being mad. Together, right? And that's why I wanted to remind you, and I'm reminding you now. And that's why these episodes stay here. Find your way, your meditation. We have done and are doing everything we can to give you this connection and to provide it to you in the form of videos, broadcasts, meditations, audio meditations, books, articles, affirmations, thoughts, impulses, and ideas. social media posts, shorts, guests who share their extraordinary stories and realizations on this path of infinity. But in the end, no matter how much information is given to you, no one can make you believe in what is inside you. If you don't choose it yourself, to explore it, to accept it as a valid part of all versions in the entire universe, and to slowly start to reorganize things, the puzzle of your existence. For me, while you are putting together this puzzle, it's a great pleasure to take part in the miniature arrangement on my own and yours into a complete and collective one. It was also a great pleasure that for 10 years now on YouTube, I feel in an exceptional way that makes me keep moving forward with a drive, as if I just started yesterday. Exactly for this reason, the more you are in the present moment, the slower you age, and that's the answer to why some people at 80 years old look so youthful. Because they are simply always either in most of their time in the present moment, and this is life's greatest mystery. No matter how much of a cliche it has become, that doesn't really matter, because everything exists here anyway. And for me it was huge. Honor. It was a pleasure and a privilege to share these thoughts with you today, to do it so differently in this whole space, and I really like it. And if you don't mind, I would be happy to make more of these free-form videos, because this way, even if I struggle with some things at times, even if I don't express myself the way you're used to, I'm calm and at peace with myself, because this is who I am. Support the people around you and give more. There is always more.